Hey everyone, welcome back to World Information HD, your go-to channel for uncovering hidden treasures and mind-blowing facts. Today, we're diving into a world where even a humble penny, yes, that 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny you might find in your pocket, could be worth millions. In this video, we'll explore the top 5 rarest Lincoln wheat pennies, how they came to be, and why collectors would pay astronomical amounts for them. From wartime mistakes to minting errors, these are the kinds of coins that turn pocket change into fortune. So, buckle up and let's uncover the stories behind these numismatic legends. In the world of American coin collecting, few coins carry the curiosity, history, and hidden potential value quite like the United States of America 1942 D mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny. It looks like a small and ordinary piece of copper, the same color and size as millions of coins that passed through the hands of American workers during the early 1940s. But collectors today know that this little penny has a story that stretches far beyond its 1-cent face value. It represents patriotism, wartime sacrifice, minting variations that collectors hunt for, and a fascinating place in United States history. And for some lucky individuals, finding the right example of this coin could lead to a jaw-dropping discovery worth thousands of dollars today. To understand why this coin matters, we have to take a trip back to 1942, a year when the world was engulfed in the chaos of World War II. The United States had recently entered the conflict, factories were converting to military production, families were conserving resources, and even the U.S. Mint was preparing for changes that would affect the coins in people's pockets. Copper, which had long been used for the 1-cent penny, was suddenly a critical war material needed for ammunition, wiring, and industrial machinery. The mint was under pressure to conserve copper for the war effort, and because of that, the Lincoln wheat penny was about to undergo major changes. Although 1943 is the year famous for the steel penny, 1942 serves as the final chapter of the predominantly copper wartime penny era and the last full year before history changed the metal composition of the coin. The 1942 D penny was struck at the Denver Mint, identifiable by the small D mint mark just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. This mint produced millions of examples, and to the everyday citizens of the time, these pennies were simply pocket change, something to buy bread, stamps, milk, or a newspaper. But fast forward to today, and collectors are not looking at the coin for what it bought back then. They are looking for rarity, minting quality, sharp details, surviving condition, and varieties that might make one 1942 D penny worth far more than another. And oh yes, the right one can be extremely valuable. The design itself carries symbolism that Americans recognized immediately. On the obverse, President Abraham Lincoln stares ahead, the 16th President of the United States, a man whose leadership preserved the nation during the Civil War. Above his head, the motto, "In God We Trust," reminds the viewer of faith and national unity. To the left sits the word, liberty, and to the right, the date 1942. Below the date, on the 1942 D version, sits the all-important D mint mark that indicates this coin was produced in Denver. On the reverse side, 2 wheat stalks rise up like the edges of a shield, protecting the bold lettering 1 cent and United States of America. Above that sits another powerful phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one, a message that carried heavy weight in a time when America was sending its sons overseas to fight for freedom. Collectors today love the story told by this coin, but they also know that not all coins are equal. A 1942 D penny that circulated heavily will show wear, scratches, discoloration, and a flattening of Lincoln's facial features. The wheat lines on the reverse side will fade, and the luster will disappear. Such a coin may still hold basic collectible value, but the real excitement begins when a 1942 D penny survives in superb condition, untouched by decades of handling. A coin with strong luster, sharp details in Lincoln's beard, and crisp wheat lines can quickly climb in market value. Collectors use grades, usually assigned by professional grading services, to evaluate the quality. A coin in good or fine grade may be fun to own but is considered common. A coin in extremely fine or about uncirculated condition starts to become interesting. But a coin graded mint state, especially one at the higher levels, becomes something extraordinary, What makes high-grade coins rare? The simple answer is survival. Millions were printed, but most were used in commerce, rubbed down in pockets, purses, cash registers, and bank bags. Only a tiny percentage were saved early enough and carefully stored to preserve their original shine and detail. That is why high-grade examples sometimes command jaw-dropping prices at auctions. Modern collectors, investors, and enthusiasts all chase these top-tier survivors. Sometimes the value doesn't come just from condition. Mint errors and dye varieties can turn an already interesting coin into a collector's treasure. Because wartime production was rushed, the stress on minting equipment was intense. Dyes wore out faster, quality control varied, and minor imperfections made their way into circulation. These imperfections are exactly what collectors look for. Some 1942 D wheat pennies have repunched mint marks, where the letter D was struck more than once, creating a doubling effect. Others may show doubled dyes, date anomalies, misplaced impressions, or striking issues. To the average person, these details go unnoticed, but to a serious collector, these varieties can dramatically increase the coin's desirability. This brings us to one more important point: the thrill of discovery. Many people today own old pennies in jars, drawers, coin albums, or inherited boxes from parents and grandparents. A 1942 D penny could be sitting unnoticed in a collection, never examined carefully under a magnifying glass or a grating light. That is the magic of numismatics. Treasure does not always look like treasure. Sometimes it looks like a small copper coin most people would walk past on a sidewalk. But to the trained eye, details matter, condition matters, and rarity matters. A coin like this could turn out to be worth far, far more than anyone expects. And then we get to the sales records. Over the past decades, auctions have revealed how much collectors are truly willing to pay for the best surviving examples of this coin. It is one thing to read a price guide or look at a value chart, but when the bidding starts and the auction room heats up, the true demand is revealed. When a rare 1942 D penny in superb uncirculated condition crosses the auction block, bidders know that opportunities like this may come only once in many years. They are not just buying a small copper coin, they are buying history, rarity, patriotism, and a piece of numismatic heritage that few others will ever own. And when the final hammer falls, the prices reached can be astonishing. This is what makes coin collecting exciting. Ordinary objects become extraordinary because of their survival, their story, and the passion of collectors who value them. A single penny can open the doorway to American history. It can represent a particular moment in time, a change in national priorities, and a memory of what America was facing in 1942. The 1942 D penny held in someone's hand today might have been used by a factory worker buying lunch during a wartime shift, a mother mailing a letter to her son serving overseas, or a child placing a coin into a savings bank during a time of rationing and sacrifice. These stories, though unrecorded, are embedded in the coin itself. Collectors often say that coins are miniature time machines. They travel through hands, cities, generations, economic eras, and cultural changes, but they remain the same physical object. The 1942 D wheat penny is one of those time machines. It symbolizes an America at a turning point, an economy gearing up for global war, and a society preparing for sacrifice and change. Yet today, this same coin can sit preserved in a collector's case under controlled lighting, carefully graded and protected, admired not for what it could buy, but for what it represents. If you own a 1942 D penny, this is your chance to take a closer look. Examine its condition. Look at the mint mark placement. Study the fields, the details, and the luster. You never know what you might hold in your hand: a common circulated cent, a high-grade survivor, or a rare variety that could astonish even seasoned collectors. And while not every coin will reach breathtaking value, some certainly have. In fact, one exceptional 1942 D Lincoln wheat penny sold at auction for an incredible $47,477. In the rich and layered history of American coinage, few coins have captured the imaginations of collectors and treasure hunters as much as the Lincoln wheat cent. For decades, these pennies have been silently passing through generations, exchanging hands, hiding in drawers, sliding through coin jars, or resting untouched in albums. While millions of people have held a wheat penny at some point in their lives, very few truly understand the stories, the secrets, and the incredible values that some of these humble coins can carry. Among these, the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark stands out as a fascinating piece of numismatic history. It is not just another old penny, it is a symbol of war-era America, a survivor of a changing economy, and in certain rare conditions, a coin that could be worth thousands of dollars to a collector today. To appreciate the significance of the 1944 wheat penny, we need to step back in time to the early 1940s, a period defined by hardship, sacrifice, and global conflict. The United States was fully engaged in World War II, and materials such as copper and nickel were desperately needed for military production. Ammunition casings, communication wiring, machinery, and countless other battlefield necessities required metals that had once been used for everyday coin manufacturing. Because of this, the U.S. Mint made dramatic changes to the materials used in circulating coins. While most pennies before the war were made almost entirely of copper, the year 1943 saw the introduction of the one-year-only steel cent, a fascinating piece of American coinage history. These short-lived pennies were produced from steel and coated with zinc, resulting in a silver-gray coin that looked nothing like the penny Americans were used to seeing. However, the experiment was short-lived. The steel cents rusted easily, were mistaken for dimes, and caused problems in coin-operated machines of the era. The public disliked them, and the mint was quick to correct course. In 1944, the Lincoln cent returned to its traditional copper appearance, but even that decision was shaped directly by the war. While World War II was still underway, salvaged shell casings from military training were melted down and recycled into coinage. The familiar brown wheat penny of 1944 was literally struck from metals once destined for battle. Every 1944 penny, then, is more than just a coin. It is a small piece of the wartime effort, minted from history itself. Most 1944 pennies were struck in enormous quantities. Over 1 billion Lincoln wheat cents were minted across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, making them one of the most plentiful issues. The coin minted without a mint mark came from the Philadelphia facility, and it accounts for the majority of the year's production. To the average person, this makes the 1944 penny seem ordinary, common, and easy to overlook. Many Americans stored them away, spent them without a second thought, or passed them down unknowingly to younger generations who had no idea that a lucky coin could someday be worth a significant amount of money. But what sets a coin apart and gives it extraordinary value is not how many were minted, it is how well a particular piece has survived. Most 1944 pennies circulated heavily, collecting scratches, discoloration, wear, and damage as they traveled through wallets, pockets, cash registers, and bank counters for decades. However, a small number avoided this fate. Some were set aside intentionally by collectors, others stashed in drawers or hidden in jars shortly after leaving the mint, while a tiny handful may have been preserved accidentally inside forgotten rolls in bank vaults. Those that remain in pristine, brilliant, almost flawless condition are the ones that today command the attention of seasoned collectors, auction houses, and coin historians. The 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark features the same iconic design that Americans had been familiar with since 1909. On the front, or obverse, the coin proudly displays the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln sculpted by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln appears thoughtful and dignified, symbolizing leadership and strength during a defining era in American history. Above his head is the word Liberty, and the date 1944 sits clearly beside the bust. The absence of a mint letter below the date identifies it as a Philadelphia Mint issue. On the reverse, the coin continues the historic wheat ears design that gave the wheat cent its famous nickname. The words 1 cent and United States of America sit framed between two stylized wheat stalks, and above them appears the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one. While millions of these coins exist, condition is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. In circulated grades, coins that show evidence of everyday use, the coin might only be worth a few cents or a few dollars depending on condition. However, When a coin has been preserved in a state that collectors describe as uncirculated or mint state, its desirability and value increase exponentially. A sharp strike, smooth surfaces, glossy luster, clean fields free of scratches and stains, minimal contact marks, and an overall eye appeal are what serious collectors look for. It is these few gems, the survivors of history, that capture attention and command surprising price tags. Some collectors have found that the 1944 wheat penny can be exceptionally valuable when graded by professional coin certification services such as NGC or PCGS. These services evaluate each coin's condition, assign it a numeric grade, and encapsulate it in a protective holder with a label confirming its authenticity. Grades range from low circulated levels all the way up to a perfect mint state 70, though such perfection is extremely rare. A high mint state example of a 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny with full original luster, sharp detail, and virtually no flaws becomes a prized item at auction. As collectors compete, bidding can reach truly impressive numbers, especially when a piece is well preserved and has excellent visual appeal. The story of the 1944 penny's value also ties into the fascination with wheat cents as a whole. These coins were produced from 1909 through 1958 and represent one of the longest-running and most collected series in U.S. history. They also include legendary rarities, such as the 1909 SVDB, the 1914D, and the famous 1955 double die. Collectors who love the series often strive to complete full sets across all dates and mints, fueling strong demand even for more common dates in top-grade condition. As the decades pass, high-quality examples only grow scarcer, since natural aging, mishandling, and environmental conditions slowly diminish surviving pieces. That scarcity in upper grades helps drive auction prices to impressive levels, making even wartime pennies from the 1940s surprisingly valuable. It is also worth noting that pennies from the 1940s hold strong emotional value. They evoke imagery of war bonds, ration stamps, telegrams from overseas, radio broadcasts, and American communities united in the cause of freedom. For many collectors, owning a well-preserved example of a 1944 penny is not just a financial investment, it is holding a piece of a story, a reminder of the resilience and determination of everyday Americans at a time when the world was at a crossroads. So the next time you come across an old jar of pennies in a drawer, a dusty box of coins in the attic, or spare change from a family estate, it is worth taking a close look. You might discover that what seems like an ordinary coin is in fact a hidden treasure. With the right condition and the right grading, the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny is capable of reaching staggering values. And for one particularly high-grade example offered at public sale, this wartime cent achieved an astonishing price of $32,993. The story of the United States of America 1951 mint mark Lincoln wheat penny begins in a time of growing optimism, a period when the country was emerging from the shadows of war and stepping into a new age of economic and industrial development. It was a year when families were settling into modern American life, soldiers returned home, suburban communities expanded, and the nation looked toward a future of progress. Yet hidden among the millions of ordinary objects exchanged in daily life, one small copper coin quietly entered circulation. A coin that most Americans spent without a second thought. A coin that many would forget, discard, or deposit into banks without ever realizing the future treasure they held between their fingers. That coin was the 1951 Lincoln wheat penny. It was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the most historically significant coin production centers in the United States. During 1951 alone, millions of these wheat pennies were struck, each bearing the small letter D beneath the date, a subtle mark indicating the mint of origin. These coins were never meant to be collectible. They were simply a common part of American commerce. They jingled inside metal cash registers, sat inside the pockets of workers, and paid for school lunches, bus rides, newspapers, candy bars, and household necessities. Hardly anyone imagined that more than 7 decades later, collectors, historians, and investors would hunt for original examples in high-grade condition, recognizing that some of these seemingly modest coins would eventually become incredibly valuable. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series itself has a long and meaningful history. When it was introduced in 1909, it marked the first time that a real American president was placed on a circulating United States coin. Abraham Lincoln's profile replaced the long-used Indian head design, and Americans instantly connected with the new cent. His portrait symbolized unity, freedom, and national pride. The reverse side featured 2 wheat stalks, symbolic of prosperity and growth. For half a century, this design remained in everyday circulation and became a staple of American life. Nearly every student, shop owner, and banker in the mid-20th century was familiar with the sight and feel of the wheat cent. By 1951, the nation had changed dramatically. The post-war economic boom meant factories were operating at full speed, new jobs were being created, and people were spending more money than ever. Millions of coins were needed to keep up with that demand. The Denver Mint, known for its high-volume production and durable striking quality, rose to meet that requirement. It released an enormous supply of 1951 pennies into commerce. Most were spent, worn down, and eventually replaced by newer coins. But among the huge number produced, a very small percentage emerged with exceptional quality, untouched by circulation, or preserved by collectors who understood that history has a habit of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. What makes the 1951 wheat penny so fascinating today is not simply its age, but the characteristics that elevate some examples far above the rest. Coins that were saved in perfect or near-perfect condition are rare. Many of these pennies left the mint, slid into change drawers, were jostled against other coins, and developed surface marks and wear. Over time, only a tiny fraction remained in pristine, lustrous condition. These are the coins most targeted by serious collectors. They display sharp detail in Lincoln's hair, beard, cheek, and collar. They reflect strong mint luster with a deep copper glow. The lettering and wheat stalks on the reverse are clear, sharp, and crisp. Such physical perfection is what transforms the 1951 from a common piece of pocket change into a trophy of numismatic rarity. Another reason this coin has captured the attention of collectors is the emotion and story attached to it. The early 1950s were years of rebuilding, of new beginnings, and of hope spreading across the United States. Families were buying their first homes, schools were expanding, industries were growing, and the golden age of American manufacturing was taking shape. People bought televisions, refrigerators, and automobiles. Families sat together in the living room and listened to radio news. It was a time when a penny had value, real, everyday value. A single cent could buy something meaningful, and it was exchanged with purpose. Children saving pennies in glass jars could dream of buying small toys, candies, or first savings accounts at their local banks. That era is long gone, yet the presence of a 1951 wheat penny provides a physical reminder of a country rising into a new generation. Collectors who study this coin today look for several important factors that influence its value and desirability. One of the most important is condition. A circulated example, worn from decades of handling, may have sentimental appeal, but it does not hold much monetary worth. However, examples graded in top condition by professional certification services can command incredible prices. These agencies examine every detail of the coin, surfaces, strike sharpness, luster, and the absence of imperfections. Only the finest earn top grades, placing them among the elite. These are the coins that enter major auctions, where determined bidders compete for ownership, knowing that only a tiny number survive in such exceptional state. Another factor is eye appeal. Even two coins with the same technical grade may look different to collectors. Some may have a vibrant red finish, the original color the copper displayed when it was first struck. Others may tone to deep brown or develop shades of violet, orange, gold, or rose. Some collectors prefer bright red surfaces that shine with mint freshness, while others treasure natural patina that tells a story of age and authenticity. The market responds strongly to these elements. A coin with breathtaking visual character can attract premium bids, because collectors often seek pieces that stand out from the rest. Historical context also enhances the 1951 penny's desirability. The wheat cent design was nearing the end of its run, with only 7 more years of production left before the reverse changed in 1959 to reflect the Lincoln Memorial. By the late 1950s, many people began taking interest in collecting older cent designs. Hobby magazines, coin club newsletters, and small coin shops helped fuel a growing community of enthusiasts. They developed checklists, folders, and albums with labeled spaces, encouraging collectors to search bank rolls, pocket change, and family jars to complete their sets. It was during this period that many of the surviving uncirculated 1951 pennies were finally recognized and preserved. The coin also holds a place in the emotional memory of many Americans. Some grew up during the 1950s and remember using these coins as children. Others found them in boxes inherited from parents or grandparents. Some stumbled across forgotten rolls tucked away in old desk drawers, toolboxes, and hope chests. Those personal stories help fuel the fascination behind coins like the 1951 Dewey penny. They are not just metal, they are tokens of memory, artifacts of real lives lived in a very different United States. As time has passed, the number of original uncirculated examples has grown smaller. Coins are lost, damaged, mishandled, or removed from the collector market. This natural reduction increases rarity, and rarity increases value. Today, collectors approach the 1951 Dewey penny not merely as a simple copper coin, but as a piece of national history with measurable collectible potential. Numismatic auctions have highlighted the impressive demand for top-grade specimens. Dealers compete to locate and acquire them, investors appreciate the potential long-term value, and historians admire the cultural meaning tied to the piece. Even newcomers to the hobby often begin with pennies. They are affordable, familiar, and full of fascinating stories. That makes the 1951 a coin that appeals to both beginners and experts alike. Anyone searching pocket change or inherited coin jars may still find a worn example, but discovering a high-grade, untouched piece is becoming increasingly unlikely as time continues to pass. This coin reminds collectors that everyday objects can carry extraordinary significance. Something humble, something once spent without notice, can evolve into a treasure through time, rarity, and preservation. Every scratch, every luster mark, and every smooth edge speaks of the journey a coin took across the hands of the American people. Each 1951 Dewey penny is a time capsule of modern American history. In the world of coin collecting, values fluctuate, but historical importance remains constant. This coin reflects a nation on the rise, an era of industrial growth, and the final decade of one of the most iconic U.S. coin designs.